your name?
Okay, my name is Jim Peddle. My father's name was Archer Peddle. He was born in 1894. He joined the Navy in the reserve in 1913, year before the war broke out. His older brother joined the year before that in the reserve, and he had an even older brother than that who joined the Navy around 1905, 1906. My father did his training with HMS Calypso in St. John's, and then the following year he went to Labrador with his father and his brother and several others in his father's schooner. And while they were there in Tub Harbor, in Labrador, I think it was around Sandy Islands, there was a magistrate came on board and told him that he wanted to know if there were any reservemen on board. He said we were at war with Germany, and there was a steamer coming down the coast picking up all the reservemen. So when the steamer showed up, they picked up my father and his brother and some relatives, and of course there were many more on board, and they took them to St. John's. And from there they were sent home until they were ready to be sent overseas. So it was only a week or so, and I think they came back to St. John's again, and then they went overseas. And my father and his brother, and my father, I guess his brother too as well, went to Naval Gun School for training on heavy guns for their ships. And then he went on a number of ships throughout the war. So there are a number of ships he was on, but I don't recall them. It's in his book. It's in the book that he used during the Navy, and it's also in the book he wrote. And of course, him and his brother were separated, and they went to different ships. And he spent most of his time in the North Sea, the North Atlantic, and in the subarctic during the war. They were in places like Iceland and so on, and they were off the coast of Germany a number of times. His brother was transferred to Gallipoli and the Dardanelles, and they were. He came back from there, and he was torpedoed off Malta, but he survived that. But toward the end of the war, just 6 months before the end of the war, his ship was lost with only a couple of survivors. He was not one of them. He was a married man, by the way, at the time, with one son. And my father was not married at that time. He was single. So when the war ended, my father came back. Well, he didn't get back until 1919. They were demobilized, but with so many people coming back, it was the following year, 1919, when he came back home. And he was married in 1920. And from then on, he spent time fishing and doing carpenter work and that sort of thing for most of his life from then on. And that about sums it up, I guess.
Great. Let me think now. So I'm assuming, like, before he shipped off, like, was he a fisherman prior to that?
Yes, he was in Labrador with his father, fishing schooner, his father's schooner.
Oh, okay.
So him and his brother and several others, whatever it took for a crew, I guess.
Now I'm curious. Did he? Now, I mean, obviously, you know this whole story. Like, would he speak much of the war after he returned?
Well, he like a lot of people, I guess, he had all kinds of stories, mostly funny stories and things that happen on shore and that sort of thing. But he did not speak much about action or anything like that. No.
I'm not surprised. Not many people did.
No.
I assumed.
Yes.
Have you been there in person, or you just
Yes.
seen pictures?
Yep.
So, what do you think of it?
Well, I think it's great. It far exceeded my expectations because there were quite a number of community monuments around our area, and I wasn't expecting anything the size of that. I was really impressed. It's great, and not only that, but it includes names of everybody who served, overseas and wherever, and a lot of the monuments just have the names of people who lost their lives.
I guess it means a lot to you to have your father's name there.
Oh yes, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, and that's when I was listening to your story about how your father, he served on the HMS Calaspio, I believe. The neat thing is my great uncle Simeon Whalen. He trained on that same ship. Simeon
Whalen, I've heard him speak about him.
Yeah.
From Cape and Cove.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. My father. As a matter of fact, my father said that he spoke to him the day before he lost his life during the war.
He did, yes.
Yes.
Ship, he was on a merchant ship.
And, yes. They were what they called auxiliary cruisers. They were merchant ships that were converted for wartime use. And they were often used to escort convoys and that sort of thing. And this happened, according to my father, off a place in Scotland called Mull of Kintyre. You may have heard of it because there was a well-known song, Mull of Kintyre. I think, I forget who it was now that sang it. But anyway, the ship apparently was torpedoed.
Yes.
And I don't think there were many survivors because those ships were not designed really for warfare. So, my father spoke to him the day before she was torpedoed. Actually, he knew him, of course, before he went overseas. Rod Stewart sang the song. Now I know. Yeah. Mull of Kintyre. Several others sang it too, but it was well known. Right? And that's where it was. Mull, I think, is just another Scottish word for a cape, something like that, So, that he knew him.
Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, that's one of my bucket list items is to go to Beaumont Hamel because everybody's name.
Yeah. I'm not sure if. I suppose they are. I know that the people who were at Beaumont Hamel were soldiers, as a part of the Navy, but I imagine all their names are there. I imagine they would have Navy names there as well. I don't know. Yeah, I've never been there, but I'd sure like to. My father's brother, his name is on the War Memorial in St. John's. Yeah.
But when did he begin to open up about his experiences?
Well, I was the youngest in the family. There were seven siblings, and he, of course, growing up, I heard all kinds of stories as far back as I can remember. Just general stories. Funny things that happened, or things people said. I can't recall anything specific right now, but and not only that, but when I was growing up, a lot of his fellow people, relatives and acquaintances and that were alive in Hodges Cove, where we came from. And they would come around, they'd chat about, being overseas and all that sort of thing. But there must have been a dozen or more of them when I was growing up, So they all had little stories to tell, but yeah, that was it, I guess.
And I don't know, have there been any like larger anniversary events, for example, special events that he attended? It kind of like, I know like sometimes in towns they'll have like, I don't know, like the 20th anniversary of.
Yeah. No, when he was alive, there were very few events. There were wreath laying at the monument there by the church, but that was only in the later years. My father was in his 70s, I suppose, when that took place.
Okay, so he wasn't really active in.
Well, he was no. There was nothing really organized other than organized by the church. He was a member of the Canadian Legion. He was a member before that. Before we joined Canada, I suppose he was a member of the British Overseas Legion. I forget what they call it now. But anyway, there was an organization before the Canadian Legion. Yeah.
Because I mean, I was born in '82, so I'm still pretty young. But as far as I can remember personally, there's always been like a Remembrance Day service at the church where you had to reflate and everything. So I don't know. I don't know if that was always a thing before my time, or was that fairly recent?
Yeah, well, in the smaller communities like we came from, there wasn't much until I would say the late '60s, early '70s. Before.
Well, I actually never knew that. I always thought it was just a continuous thing, like especially after the Second World War.
No, there was there was always the service at the War Memorial in St. John's. That was broadcast in the later years, usually the 11th of November. That was broadcast in the later years. Of course, it was televised. There was also a service done on July 1st. That was, and at that time, when I was growing up, on July 1st, there was, we had forget-me-nots. This was used in Newfoundland, and later that, I haven't seen any. I think there was a problem getting them because you had to get them from somewhere overseas, but that was the thing on July 1st, and there would be wreath laying as well, But other than that, no. Like I said, my father was in the Canadian Legion. But, he never went to any of the wreath laying services that we had home. Well, he was well up in years. He wasn't well. That may have been a factor. But I got a feeling that because he lost his brother during the war and his name was on the monument, that may have been a factor why he did not attend. I don't know. Yeah.
I guess some people don't really think that the memories they can bring back.
I
can't imagine what it would have been like there in person. And
so that could have been a factor, And in World War One, he was his brother was the only one from the community, and there were about, I suppose, 10 or 15. He was the only one who lost his life, and he was married with a son. So I guess brought back a lot of memories, I would say. He did mention when his brother was lost, he was in the general area at the time. That's one thing I recall hearing him talk about. His brother's ship was torpedoed. I think he was present when it was torpedoed, and he was on another ship. And he assumed that his brother was on actually a different ship, but he was transferred to this ship on that day, on the day before the torpedo. He was torpedoed. And so when the ship came in that his brother was supposed to be on, his ship came in too, and they went, and he knew the other ship was torpedoed, the Dirk, HMS Dirk. He knew about that. So he went over to see his brother, and he was told his brother was transferred to another ship, the Dirk, which, you know, and he knew the Dirk was lost. There were only 2 survivors. But there were complications because before leaving his ship, he wrote a letter to my mother, which was his girlfriend at the time, and he said, I'm going over to visit my brother. His ship just came in. So on the way over, he put the letter in the mail, and he went over, and then he discovered his brother was on a different ship altogether. So his brother's wife and my grandmother, which was his mother, found out that Uncle Alex, his name was Alexander, was lost because they got, I guess they got a telegram. They usually get it, or, you know, the information came to them that he was lost. But then they got a letter. Then my mother got this letter saying that he was, his ship came in on the same day that he was supposed to be lost. So, you know, nobody knew what was going on. So I remember hearing my mother say that her mother-in-law, future mother-in-law, my father's mother came in to see, you know, to see her, because the story was going around, you know, that he was still alive. And, you know, because my mother got the message, got the letter from the father, and so there was a lot of confusion there. But anyway, it finally got straightened out that, you know, he was transferred to another ship. So for a while there was, you know, there was some hope that, you know, it was all a mistake and he was still alive. But unfortunately, it wasn't. So that's one thing I heard him speak of, you know.
Well, I can't think of anything else, unless anything else just pops into your head.
Yeah.